All right, let's dive into this situation unfolding in Purcellville, Virginia. It's quite something.
It really is. We're talking about the town's mayor, Christopher Bertaut.
Right, and he's been suspended, not by the town itself, but by the Coalition on Loudoun Towns.
Yeah, that's the group of mayors from all 7 towns in Loudoun County. A united front, essentially.
And the reason, allegations about, well, failing to meet ethical standards and uphold public trust.
Serious charges. And it really gets you thinking about, you know, how towns are run, what we expect.
Definitely. This local story has some bigger implications.
And what's really striking is the timing. This suspension came just 2 days after the Purcellville Town Council made a couple of huge decisions.
Huge is right. First, they voted to get rid of their police department.
Dismantle it, yeah.
Mm.
And then, almost in the same breath, they appointed the interim town manager, Kwasi Frazier, as the permanent guy.
Without interviewing anyone else, I heard there were other applicants.
Oh, yeah. Around 80, apparently. No interviews for them, just appointed Frazier. And, well, that didn't sit right with a lot of people.
You can imagine that led to immediate public outcry, right? Calls for recalls.
Exactly. Calls to recall Mayor Bertaut and 3 other council members, people talking about murky practices and a lack of transparency.
So it's less about what the actual decisions and more about the how.
That seems to be the crux of it, yeah. And that's what the Coalition of Mayors focused on in their statement.
What did they say specifically?
They talked about core values, accountability, integrity, transparency, following the law.
Okay.
And they were really clear. This suspension isn't about disagreeing with policy, like dismantling the police force. It's about the process, the methods used.
That's a key distinction. The mayors from other towns are stepping in based on procedure.
It signals how seriously they view these process concerns. Let's maybe look at the timeline quickly.
Good idea. So, the new council majority, led by Bertaut, took office January 1st.
Right. Then, just a week later, January 8th, they removed the previous town manager, Rick Bremseth.
At a special meeting, wasn't it?
Correct. And then Frazier's appointment followed pretty quickly after that.
And part of the concern involves these 4 council members, the majority maybe having discussions outside of public view.
That's the allegation. Private discussions, potentially violating Virginia's Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, and just general transparency rules, sidestepping public scrutiny.
Which always raises red flags. And there's another layer here with the vice mayor, Ben Nett.
Ah, yes. Nett. He's a former town police officer himself.
So voting on dismantling the police department and picking the town manager, that looks like a potential conflict of interest.
It certainly raises questions for some residents, absolutely. And then there's the Brady List issue.
Explain that briefly.
So the Commonwealth Attorney's Office maintains a Brady List. It flags officers whose credibility or truthfulness might be challenged in court. Nett is apparently on that list.
Okay, that's significant.
And combined with the fact that he was previously dismissed from the police force, well, you can see how that might fuel public mistrust.
Definitely paints a complicated picture. So the coalition, the other mayors, they see this as needing intervention.
It seems so. Their perspective seems to be about upholding ethical leadership standards across the whole county, not just in Purcellville.
They called the suspension a precautionary step, I believe.
Exactly. A precautionary step to, in their words, protect the integrity of local governance. They're emphasizing that how things are done, the procedural fairness, is vital for legitimacy.
So where does that leave things now? It sounds messy.
It's very much ongoing. Far from settled, as you said, there are urgent questions swirling about transparency, accountability, what public service even means in this context.
And the community is just waiting.
Waiting and watching closely, I imagine. Waiting to see what happens next with the mayor, the council, the town manager, the police department. A lot of moving parts.
Okay, so let's recap the key points. We have a local government in Purcellville facing pretty serious allegations about transparency, about ethical conduct.
Which has led to the mayor being suspended by this countywide group of mayors and a lot of public concern.
And for you, the listener, this whole situation really underscores how important it is to pay attention to local governance.
Absolutely. We need to hold elected officials accountable, not just for their decisions, but how they make them. The process matters.
It really does. Which brings us to a final thought to chew on. Think about your own community. What actions by leaders truly build public trust? And conversely, what kinds of behaviors can just shatter it almost overnight? Something to consider.